Oh, the JOBO film processors. By the end of this video, you will know whether a JOBO film processing setup is actually worth $2,000 plus for developing your film, and if it's something that you should consider investing in. So first, let's start with some of the cons and why you might want to reconsider spending all that loot on a processor like this. So the first negative I have is the price. So these units are very expensive, and not only are the units themselves expensive, but all of the tanks and reels that you'll need to develop whatever film you want to also come with a premium price tag. Next, I would say the size. They're big, they take up a footprint. If you don't have a specific area that you can set it up in and put it in, it may not work out for you. I have to set mine up in my sink every time I want to use it, and it can be a little bit cumbersome. It's not that big of a deal, but it is, it takes that much more effort. I have to pull it out, set it up, level it, and do all those things before I can actually use it. So it would be better for me if I had a specific spot, but I don't have the room. So that is something to consider. Uneven development can be a problem. Now, this is just my experience, so take this with for what it's worth. But I absolutely stopped developing my medium format black and white film, and I was using the 2500 series drum, and with my black and white negatives, I was just getting really uneven development. I tried everything under the sun, searching, doing different things, and I finally gave up because it was frustrating. Now, I will say I still develop my color medium format film in that same drum with those same reels, and I don't have any issue. But I've found that I get perfectly even developed negatives with my small stainless steel tanks, so I've just went back to that, and I have no issues whatsoever. And there is a really strong argument for randomized or random agitation, such as in a tank or in a tray. A lot of people feel that this is just a superior way to agitate your film for more even development than, say, the rotary process. Again, these are just my experiences, so I won't use that tank for black and white film. But like I said, I do still use it for color. Your mileage may vary. And another con that I see with the JOBO systems are that this is specific to black and white film again. It can be a little bit difficult with continuous agitation to achieve a degree of like a compensating effect if you're dealing with a very high contrast scene and you want to reduce contrast in that negative. It's just more difficult with constant agitation. A lot of times you'll have to resort to minimal or even stand development for such negatives, and you can't do that with the JOBO. Now, before I cover all the reasons the JOBO system is a great system, I need you to smash that subscribe button. I will be putting out more videos just like this, and you are not going to want to miss them. Now, when looking at my lists and all the things I was thinking about in my experiences with using a JOBO system, it really stood out that I have a lot more cons about this system than I do positive things. However, the positive things are so strong that I definitely recommend a JOBO system to the right person. And so let's just go over some of the good things about this. First and foremost, it makes developing color film easy and efficient. It's so much easier to keep the chemicals at a higher temperature, which you generally are going to want to do and get really consistent, even results with your color film. So if you shoot a lot of color film, this might be a great system for you. The reason I still use mine, like I said, I've had problems with my smaller format negatives and I don't really use it for those anymore, but I do have the 4x5 Expert drum, and it develops extremely even negatives and very consistent negatives. And specifically for me, it's a system that I've really grown to enjoy, especially using like the zone system and doing film testing. It's just really hard to achieve that level of consistency any other way. And this is because it controls the variables so well. The temperature, the time, the agitation, it's all consistent and can be relied upon. I also want to put the build quality as a pro. Now, I don't have one of the newer units, and the one I have honestly is a little bit janky. And the reason I'm gonna say the build quality is a pro is because I bought a used CPA2. And if you're not familiar, this was like the first one that could do large, it was the first larger unit, I believe, or it's one of the first ones. And the reason I bought this one and I bought it used is because I really wanted to try the JOBO system out before spending like $4,000 on like the new CPP3. So the one I bought is, like I said, the CPA2. And not only that, so it's really old. It's the first, when you look up this, you can look up the serial numbers to see like what motors, because they improved the motor drive. I have like the first batch, which are not recommended with the 4x5 Expert drum that I use. However, I've been using mine for 4 years plus, and I really haven't had any issues. I have to be a little bit gentler with it, and I pull from the base. I don't use the handle, but honestly, it works great. So I don't know 100% about the build quality, but I can say that mine has lasted, and it's not really supposed to. So I wouldn't recommend what I did necessarily, but the reasoning behind what I did was because, like I mentioned before, the tanks and these things, they are very expensive. So the Expert drum, I think I paid $650 in that ballpark, which that's an investment for something I wasn't positive I was gonna like or use. But I did see a lot of good reviews on it. I can vouch for that drum. I love using it. And so I needed something to try that wasn't going to completely break the bank. So the actual CPA unit cost me about $1,200. So all in all, with other tanks, reels, and all this stuff, I ended up spending about $2,000. And my logic behind this was, even if I hated the CPA2 or it broke or whatever, I would say, okay, I took a risk, it didn't work out. Luckily it did, but if that hadn't worked out, I have another rotary base that I could have used that Expert drum on, because I was confident in that. So that's my logic behind it, and it worked out. So the ultimate question, is it worth the price tag of the $2,000 plus? This one's tricky, because if I was just using medium format, 35mm, or medium format and smaller negatives, it's much easier for me to use my stainless steel reels, and I get way better results in my experience. So much more even development. It's not hard for me to get really consistent results with that. Another thing that's a little bit specific to me is that I had fractured my neck when I was younger riding BMX at a skate park. And I tray developed my negatives for a long time, but I have some arthritis and some other stuff going on in my neck where if I'm hunched over the tray for 10 minutes or whatever time, it gets very uncomfortable to painful for me. And that was one of the major factors that I used to determine if I wanted to try out this system, because I wanted something that was consistent, that would give even development. Always loved my tray developed negatives, but this has worked for me in my situation. So I would say if you want to get into the zone system, are serious about large format photography, I definitely think the JOBO system is worth the price tag. Now, the one I spent like about $2,000 is less than the $4,000, but if mine failed at some point, I would definitely be looking to buy a brand new CPP3 unit for my drums, because I do find it worth it. Now, if you are just developing color film, this might be a really good option for you as well, because it does a really good job of tempering the tanks and getting that temperature so consistent. And if you're only doing smaller formats, you could definitely jump down to their smaller unit, which has a smaller footprint as well. And that one starts at around $2,000. So is it worth the money? Well, it like many things in life, it depends. I think for some it definitely is, and for others it might be better to use other options. So that is my thoughts on the JOBO developing systems. And if you want to know how to get perfectly developed black and white film, watch this video right here.